Hello everyone and welcome to another BCP library video. My name is Katie and today I'm going to show you how you can paint this galaxy, and it's really easy. And all you need are some kids felt tip pens, just some normal felt tip pens that you just get normally in supermarkets or art stores, and I would recommend getting more of the thicker tip because this way the colour will spread a bit more evenly. You also need some water and a paintbrush and some quite thick paper. I have some watercolour paper, but just some thick sketchbook paper would be fine. And I've also taped off a little square so that we get a nice neat edge. So what you need to do is just colour in blocks of colour and choose about 3 different colours. I chose a really dark blue because sometimes a black in children's felt tip sets has a bit of a green tinge to it for some reason. So I decided to go for a dark blue, but you can use a black if you want to. I also went for a pink and a purple, and I'm just blocking out roughly where the colours of my galaxy are going to go. And I did round the edge in a dark colour. And then I used the lighter colours in the middle, sort of like a cluster in the sky. And I started with a darker colour, and then you just get some water and a paintbrush. And because these are water-based markers, or children's felt tip markers are water-based, you can break them down with some water and a paintbrush. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. So you don't want to use too much at first because it's better to add more than it is to take away. But if you do need to take away some of the colour, it might be a little bit too saturated, you can use a bit of kitchen roll to lift it. And it's also good to let the layers dry in between. So I did the dark colour layer first and let it dry, and then I added in the pink and the purple. And you can see me there just using my kitchen roll just to lift up some of the colour and blend it out a little bit. And the idea is that it is a bit lighter in the middle because all the stars are in the middle. So you just have to keep layering up your galaxy, and this might take a little bit of time because you need to let the layers dry, but it is really super easy, and you can get a really nice watercolour effect by just using these felt tip pens. I have Crayola markers, but as long as you get a marker that has quite a big thick tip, you should be fine, rather than the fine tips that you get sometimes in children's activity packs. So now I'm just adding the pink and the purple to the middle here, and I'm leaving a slight gap in between the pink and the blue and the purple and the blue, just because it will mean that the colours blend a little bit better. And I waited for the blue to dry fully before putting the pink and purple on because I didn't want them to muddy up too much, because that is the danger of this technique, which you do want them to blend a little bit, but you don't want them to get muddy. You don't want the blue to muddy the pink. And at the moment you can see it's a little bit streaky and it's a little bit light in places. I quite like how the purple and pink look in the middle, but I think the outside of the galaxy could be a little bit darker. So all I did was just add some more layers of the dark blue and then some water. And again, making sure it's fully dry. And I also added a little bit more pen to define certain areas to make it look a bit more like a cloud or a cluster. So around the edges of where the blue meets the purple, for example, to make it look at that a little bit more defined. And your pen will just sit nicely on top of the dried marker, and you can add some more water if you like, but again, make sure to let it dry between layers because you don't want to put too much on top of it too soon, and you don't want to put the pen on before your layer is dry because you might ruin the nib of your marker. And you can dry your layers by just using a hairdryer. It works really well and it dries it really quickly. And also watercolour paper will help because it will dry quicker because the paper will soak up the water. But again, if all you have is sketchbook paper, that's absolutely fine too. So now I'm just adding the final layers and making it especially dark in the corners because that's how I wanted to do it. But yeah, it's a very easy technique, and you can use water-based markers like this, or kids or children's felt tip pens like this in other ways. Maybe you could do a sunset if you didn't want to do a galaxy, but they work because they are water-based ink. It's pigment ink that is mixed in a water-based solution, and water will break it down, and it just works like watercolour, so you don't have to buy expensive watercolour paints to do this. So what I did for the stars is I got a toothbrush that I have in my paintbrushes because I quite like to do this technique quite a lot, and just a little bit of white acrylic paint on the toothbrush and just flick it all over, and this will get a nice random splatter of small stars. And some areas I did it more than others because I wanted it to have some concentrated clusters. And then for the bigger stars I got a paintbrush and used the end of it like this and just did a few random stars like this, and did some bigger and some smaller. I did quite a few bigger ones in the middle because the middle is brighter. And I also used a white gel pen. That's one of my favourite art supplies, but you don't have to do this if you don't have one. You can just use some paint and a fine brush to add some more medium stars. So we have the smaller stars with the toothbrush, the bigger stars with the paintbrush, and then some more medium stars with my white gel pen. And that's really all you have to do. And then once it's completely dry and you're completely happy with it, you just have to peel off the tape. I use some washi tape, but you can use masking tape. And if you need to loosen the glue of your tape, you can just use the hairdryer just to loosen it so you don't rip the page. And this gives you a nice clean edge on your paper and you get a nice square galaxy. So that's really all for today's video. I hope you feel inspired to get some felt tip pens, maybe some children's felt tip pens that you have lying around your home, and create some watercolour paintings. You can either do a galaxy like I've done, or you can do a sunset. It's totally up to you. You can just experiment with watering down your felt tip pens and making a nice watercolour painting. But that's all for today's arty crafty video, and we'll see you again soon.